Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to Where Hearts Rest. Take a breath with me, just one gentle breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let this moment be exactly as it is. If you found your way here, perhaps your heart feels heavy today. Perhaps you're carrying burdens that weren't meant for you to bear alone. Maybe you're weary from life's relentless demands, from words that have cut too deep, from disappointments that have left you questioning your own worth. You're not alone. Your weariness is seen. Your pain is valid. And right here, in this sacred space we're creating together, you can finally rest. 2,500 years ago, a prince named Siddhartha sat beneath a tree and discovered something profound, that suffering has an end and that peace lives within each of us. He became known as Buddha the Awakened, and his heart overflowed with loving kindness for every weary soul who would walk this earth. Today, Buddha's heart still whispers to us. 10 gentle whispers, like soft rain on parched ground, offering ancient wisdom for modern wounds. These aren't complicated teachings requiring years of study. They're simple truths that will meet you exactly where you are. Over the next hour, we'll journey together through stories that mirror your own heart's landscape. You'll discover how pain transforms into wisdom, how wounds become doorways, and how your weary soul can find its way home to peace. Are you ready? Let's begin with the first whisper. When words become daggers, picture yourself sitting around the dinner table at a weekend family gathering. Everyone's sharing their recent successes. Someone just got promoted. Someone else's kid got into an Ivy League school. You're sitting there, trying to engage in the conversation, but feeling like you have nothing to brag about. Then comes the familiar question. What about you? When are you going to find a stable job? Emma's friend, who's your age, is already a lawyer making 6 figures. How long are you planning to stick with this freelance creative thing? The laughter around the table suddenly feels distant. You feel all eyes turning toward you, some pitying, some curious, some silently judging. Your heart races. Your face burns with shame. It feels like all your efforts, passions, and dreams have just been reduced to one question. Why aren't you successful like everyone else? Thoughts start racing through your mind. Am I really a failure? Is what I'm doing meaningless? Have I disappointed my family? You want to defend yourself, to explain that success isn't just measured by money, that you're searching for meaning, that you're happy with the path you've chosen. But those words feel stuck in your throat. You know this feeling all too well, don't you? When words are wrapped in concern, but cut straight into your self-worth like invisible knives. When you feel measured, compared and valued by standards you don't even believe in. When love from family comes with conditions attached, we'll be proud of you when you succeed the way we think is right. In that painful moment, another voice begins to whisper, gentle but strong, warm but clear. It's Buddha's voice, reaching across space and time. Beloved child, pause and look deeper. Do those words really speak about you, or about their own fears and expectations? And in the gentle light of that understanding, you begin to see what's hidden behind the words. The loved one who just spoke those words might be carrying anxiety about your future. Maybe they're afraid you'll struggle financially, afraid you won't have security in life. Maybe they once sacrificed their own dreams to achieve success by society's definition, and they don't understand why you'd choose a different path. Perhaps, deep down, they also dream of a meaningful life like you're pursuing, but they've forgotten how to trust in the road less traveled. This understanding doesn't mean you have to accept being judged or change your path to please others. It means you can choose to respond from a place of understanding rather than from a place of hurt and defensiveness. Instead of letting those comparisons define your self-worth, you can ask, what is this situation teaching me? How can I grow stronger from this experience? Maybe it's an opportunity to practice standing firm in your values. Maybe it's a lesson about setting healthy boundaries with family. Maybe it's a reminder that you need to find a community that understands and supports the path you've chosen. Each time you're compared, each time you hear those uncomfortable questions about success, it becomes an opportunity to strengthen your mental muscles. You learn to love yourself even when not everyone understands. You learn to trust your own journey, even when it doesn't look like everyone else's. Buddha taught about right livelihood, living authentically with yourself and your life's purpose. He understood that each person has their own path to walk, and true happiness doesn't come from meeting others' expectations, but from living in alignment with your soul. When someone judges your choices, remember they're looking through their own lens, not through the eyes of true understanding. Daily practice. When you hear comparisons or judgments about your life, pause and take 3 deep breaths. The first breath to acknowledge your emotions without judgment. The second breath to send compassion to the person who just spoke. They're also struggling with their own fears and expectations. The third breath to remind yourself, I am living true to my path, and that is enough. Remember, words of judgment can be painful, but they can also become doorways to deeper self-confidence and greater compassion, both for yourself and for those who don't understand the path you've chosen. When you master the art of transforming comparisons into opportunities for growth, you'll discover a new strength, the ability to love and respect yourself regardless of what others think. But what happens when it's not just others' words, but your very emotions being completely controlled by their reactions and attitudes? When your mood depends on whether they smile or frown? Let's explore the second whisper, kingdom of your heart. Imagine you've just had a difficult conversation with your adult child. Maybe it was about their decision to move to another city for work. Perhaps it was about a relationship you don't entirely approve of. Or maybe it was simply about how they've been less in touch with the family lately. The conversation ended in tense silence. They said they'd think about what you just said and left. Now you're sitting there, waiting. Waiting for a phone call. Waiting for a text. Waiting for any sign that the relationship between you two is still okay. Days go by. You check your phone countless times. Every time the phone rings, your heart races with hope. But it's just a telemarketer or a friend, not the voice you're desperate to hear. You start replaying the conversation in your mind. Did I say something too harsh? Was I being too controlling? Why couldn't I just support my child's decision? Then your mood shifts. Or maybe my kid is being too sensitive. Why would a normal conversation make them so upset? The entire week becomes an emotional roller coaster. When they finally call back, the cool, formal tone in their voice makes you wonder if things will ever be the same. You try to read between the lines of every word, every pause, every silence in the call. Are you familiar with this feeling? When your entire mood depends on the attitude of your children, your spouse, the important people in your life. When a cold look from a loved one can keep you awake all night. When a compliment from your boss can lift your spirits all day, but a brief email makes you worry about your job security. You've handed over control of your emotional kingdom to others without even realizing it. You've turned your heart into a clock, and others can adjust the hands at will, fast when they're happy, slow when they're sad, stopped completely when they're silent. In the moment when you feel like you're drifting on the sea of others' emotions, Buddha's warm voice echoes, "Beloved child, who gave them the keys to your heart's kingdom? Why should your happiness depend on whether or not they call?" And in the light of that awakening, you realize a profound truth. No one can make you feel anything without your consent. Your emotions aren't automatic results of others' actions. They're the result of how you interpret, how you attach meaning to those actions. When your child doesn't call for a week, you can choose to think they're busy with their new life instead of they're angry with me. When your spouse seems distant, you can think maybe they're stressed about work instead of I did something wrong. When you don't receive the recognition you expected from your supervisor, you can remember that your work's value isn't entirely determined by others' praise. The truth is, everyone is fighting battles you can't see. Adult children are seeking their own identity and independence. Spouses are dealing with the pressures of aging and career changes. Colleagues are worried about their future and job security. How they treat you often reflects more about what's happening inside them than about you. Buddha taught about self-refuge, finding safety and peace from within yourself. He understood that when we depend on others' attitudes and reactions to feel okay, we're building our house on sand. Others will always change, always have periods when they need their own space, always have times when they can't give you the validation you seek. But when you learn to love, accept, and affirm yourself, you become the ruler of your own emotional kingdom. You can cherish love from family and respect from colleagues, but you don't depend on them to feel whole. Daily practice. Every morning when you wake up, place your hand on your heart and tell yourself, "Today, I choose my own feelings. I will love my family without needing them to show love the way I expect." When you start feeling anxious about someone's attitude, pause and ask, "How am I giving them control over my emotions? Can I choose a different response?" Remember, love from others is a wonderful gift, but it shouldn't become the only source nourishing your soul. When you learn to love yourself unconditionally, you'll have healthier relationships, and you'll be able to love others from a place of abundance rather than need. The kingdom of your heart belongs to you. Take the keys and become the master of yourself. But how do you maintain this kingdom when you also want those around you to reach their highest standards? How do you balance demanding excellence from yourself while extending compassion to those who don't meet your expectations? Let's explore the secret in the third whisper. The Garden of Two Standards. Picture yourself in the break room, watching a colleague reheat leftover pizza for lunch while scrolling through social media. It's 2 p.m., and you know they have that important presentation due tomorrow. You've been working through lunch for weeks to perfect your own projects, staying late, double-checking every detail. Meanwhile, they seem completely unbothered by what you consider to be cutting it close. Your jaw tightens. This isn't the first time you've noticed this pattern. During video calls, you see their unmade bed in the background while you've carefully arranged your home office. They submit reports that are good enough, while you spend hours refining yours until they're exceptional. They leave at exactly 5 p.m., while you stay to ensure everything is perfectly organized for tomorrow. The frustration builds throughout the week. Don't they care about quality, you wonder? How can they be so casual about their work? You start to feel like you're carrying more than your share, that your high standards are making everyone else look bad, or worse, that your dedication is pointless when others seem to get by with so much less effort. During the team meeting, your colleague actually gets praised for their presentation. It was fine, not terrible, but certainly not what you would have considered your best work. You sit there smiling politely, but inside you're churning. If that's what gets recognition around here, why am I killing myself with perfectionism? You catch yourself making little comments. Well, I suppose not everyone has the same attention to detail. Some people are just naturally more comfortable with good enough. The words taste bitter in your mouth, but the frustration feels justified. Then comes the moment that changes everything. You're staying late again, and you notice your colleague is still there too, but they're on a video call that sounds personal. As you pass by, you catch fragments. The doctor said we need to increase the frequency of visits. I know, Mom, but the insurance only covers. I'll figure out how to make it work. They end the call and sit there for a moment, shoulders slumped. Then they turn back to their computer and start working on tomorrow's tasks. You realize they're not leaving at 5 p.m. because they don't care. They're managing responsibilities you knew nothing about. The good enough work isn't from laziness. It's from someone doing their best while juggling challenges you can't see. In that moment of recognition, Buddha's gentle wisdom whispers through the fluorescent-lit office. Beloved child, you tend your garden with such devotion. But why do you judge other gardens by the season you're in? And suddenly you see it clearly. Your high standards, your attention to detail, your dedication, these are beautiful qualities that reflect your values and capabilities. But expecting everyone else to tend their garden exactly like yours ignores the reality that each person is working with different soil, different weather, different seasons of life. Your colleague might be in the season of caring for aging parents while managing their career. Another teammate might be in the season of young children who wake up sick and derail the most carefully planned days. Someone else might be in the season of personal health challenges that require energy to be distributed differently than yours. This doesn't mean lowering your own standards or accepting poor work that affects the team. It means understanding that excellence can look different depending on circumstances, and that grace doesn't diminish your commitment to quality. Buddha taught about right effort, the practice of applying appropriate energy to each situation. He understood that wisdom lies not in rigid expectations, but in recognizing that each person must find their own sustainable pace. Your dedication to excellence is a gift you give yourself and your work, but it becomes a burden when you use it as a measuring stick for others. You begin to see that maintaining high personal standards while offering grace to others actually strengthens both. When you're not constantly irritated by others' different approaches, you can focus more clearly on your own excellence. When you offer understanding instead of judgment, you create an environment where everyone can do their best work within their current circumstances. Daily practice. Each morning, set your intentions for your own excellence without attaching them to others' performance. When you notice frustration arising about someone else's standards, pause and ask, what season might they be in that I can't see? How can I maintain my own garden while honoring their journey? Create a personal mantra. I tend my garden with love and dedication. I offer others the grace to tend theirs according to their season. Remember, your commitment to excellence is a reflection of your character and values. It doesn't need validation through others' identical approach. In fact, your example of sustained quality work often inspires others more than your criticism ever could. When you master this balance, maintaining your own high standards while extending grace to others, you discover a profound peace. You stop feeling burdened by others' choices and start feeling empowered by your own. You create space for everyone to grow at their own pace while you continue flourishing in yours. But what happens when those around you seem to have wisdom you're not seeing? When their different approach might actually teach you something valuable? Let's explore how every person becomes your teacher in the fourth whisper. Every soul, a teacher. Picture yourself standing in line at the customer service counter, holding a receipt for the expensive appliance that stopped working after just 3 months. You've already spent 20 minutes waiting, and now you're facing a young employee who barely looks up from their phone as you approach. Their name tag reads Jordan, and they have an expression that suggests they'd rather be anywhere else. This refrigerator just died. You begin, placing the receipt on the counter with perhaps more force than necessary. It's still under warranty. Jordan glances at the receipt, then at you, then back at their computer screen. They type slowly, hunt and peck style, while you mentally calculate how much of your day this is going to consume. They say, frowning at the screen. This model, I think there might be an issue with the system. Your patience, already thin, begins to fray. Here's someone who probably knows nothing about appliances, nothing about customer service, nothing about the value of time. You can feel your jaw clenching as they call over a supervisor who also seems confused by whatever they're looking at on the screen. Look, you say, your voice carrying an edge. This is very straightforward. Product broken. Still under warranty. I need a replacement or refund. Jordan nods, still focused on the computer. I understand you're frustrated. Let me see what I can figure out here. They continue typing, occasionally pausing to squint at the screen. You glance at your watch, thinking about all the other things you need to accomplish today. Then Jordan does something unexpected. They look directly at you and say, "You know what? This system is being difficult, but I bet we can work around it. Can you tell me what exactly happened when it stopped working?" As you describe the problem, you notice Jordan is actually listening. Really listening. They ask thoughtful questions about the symptoms, about what you tried before bringing it in. Their initial apparent disinterest wasn't indifference. They were concentrating, trying to understand the full picture before offering solutions. "Okay," Jordan says, leaning forward slightly. "Here's what I'm seeing. The warranty system shows this model was recalled last month for exactly the issue you're describing. The company is offering full refunds plus a credit toward a better model. But the recall notice somehow didn't get properly entered into our regular system. You blink. A recall? Yeah, and honestly, the newer model is much more energy efficient. You'll probably save money in the long run even after the upgrade cost. Jordan starts pulling up information on their screen, explaining the options with genuine enthusiasm. As they walk you through the process, you realize several things. First, if you had gotten the quick, standard response you initially wanted, you would have missed out on a much better outcome. Second, Jordan's careful approach wasn't incompetence, it was thoroughness. Third, your impatience nearly caused you to interrupt a process that was actually working in your favor. As Jordan processes your paperwork, they mention casually, "I see this kind of thing a lot." People get frustrated with how long things take, but sometimes the longer path leads to better places. My grandmother always told me, patience isn't about waiting, it's about trusting that things unfold as they should. You walk out of the store not just with a better appliance solution, but with a completely shifted perspective. This young person you had dismissed as incompetent had actually saved you money, gotten you a superior product, and offered wisdom that went far beyond customer service. In that moment of recognition, Buddha's timeless teaching echoes clearly. Beloved child, every soul carries a lesson for those willing to receive it. When you rush to judgment, you close the door to learning. You realize that your initial frustration blinded you to what was actually happening. Jordan wasn't slow or indifferent. They were being thorough in a way that ultimately served you better than efficiency would have. Your assumption that age or appearance determines competence nearly cost you a valuable lesson and a better outcome. Buddha taught about beginner's mind, approaching each encounter with openness rather than preconceived notions. He understood that wisdom doesn't always package itself in ways we expect. Sometimes the greatest insights come from sources we initially dismiss or underestimate. This principle extends far beyond customer service encounters. The colleague who approaches problems differently than you might reveal a more effective method. The neighbor whose lifestyle seems chaotic might understand something about balance that you've missed. The family member whose choices you question might be navigating challenges with wisdom you haven't recognized. Every difficult interaction becomes an opportunity to ask, what is this person trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this moment? Sometimes the lesson is patience. Sometimes it's humility. Sometimes it's about seeing past surface appearances to recognize deeper competence or wisdom. Daily practice. Before entering any potentially challenging interaction, take a breath and set an intention. I am open to learning something today. When you feel frustration or judgment arising, pause and ask, what might this person know that I don't? What could they teach me if I listen with curiosity instead of impatience? Create a mental habit of looking for the lesson in every encounter, especially the difficult ones. The person who cuts you off in traffic might be rushing to an emergency. The cashier who seems distracted might be managing challenges you can't see. The family member who annoys you might be reflecting something you need to understand about yourself. When you begin to see every soul as a teacher, you transform from a student of life into a student of wisdom. Every day becomes a classroom, every person becomes a professor, and every challenging moment becomes curriculum designed for your growth. But what happens when the lesson seems to be about pain itself? When the teacher is suffering and the classroom is loss? Let's explore how even our deepest emotions become temporary visitors in the fifth whisper. Clouds across the sky. Picture yourself sitting in the doctor's office, staring at the words on the medical report that might as well be written in a foreign language. The doctor is explaining something about abnormal results and need for further testing, but their voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. Your hands feel cold. Your heart is pounding so hard you wonder if they can hear it across the desk. "We'll schedule a follow-up next week," the doctor says, their tone professionally reassuring. "Try not to worry too much. These things often turn out to be nothing serious. Try not to worry." The phrase echoes in your mind as you walk to your car in a daze. How do you not worry when the word cancer was mentioned? How do you not worry when you suddenly realize how fragile everything you've taken for granted really is? The drive home feels surreal. Every song on the radio sounds too cheerful. Every person you see going about their normal day seems to exist in a different universe, one where medical reports don't upend everything in the span of 15 minutes. You find yourself gripping the steering wheel tighter, as if holding on physically can somehow control the emotional freefall happening inside. That night, sleep is impossible. You lie in bed running through every possibility, every worst-case scenario your mind can conjure. The fear sits on your chest like a weight, making it hard to breathe. You think about all the things you haven't done, all the conversations you've put off, all the dreams you've deferred. The emotion is so intense it feels like it will never end, like this crushing anxiety and dread will be your permanent new reality. Days blend into one another. You go through the motions, work, meals, conversations, but everything feels muted, like you're living behind glass. People ask if you're okay, and you nod and smile, but inside you feel like you're drowning in an ocean of what-ifs. The fear has become so constant that you begin to believe it's just who you are now. Then, exactly 1 week later, you're back in that same office chair. The doctor enters with a smile, a real smile, not the cautious professional one from before. "Good news," they say, and you feel your entire body exhale for what feels like the first time in 7 days. Everything came back normal. False alarm. False alarm. Two words that instantly dissolve a week of anguish that felt like it would last forever. As you walk to your car this time, everything looks different. The same trees, the same sky, the same people, but now they seem to glow with possibility again. The crushing weight that had become so familiar it felt permanent has simply evaporated. You realize with startling clarity that the fear that seemed so solid, so unchangeable, was actually as temporary as weather. In that moment of relief and recognition, Buddha's gentle wisdom flows through your awareness. Beloved child, you have just witnessed the truth all beings must learn. No emotion, no matter how overwhelming, lasts forever. They are clouds crossing the sky of your consciousness, some dark, some light, but all temporary visitors. You begin to understand that emotions, even the most intense ones, have a natural life cycle. They arise, they peak, they fade. The terror that consumed you for a week didn't become your new identity. It was a temporary experience that moved through you and then passed, leaving you exactly who you were before, just perhaps a little wiser. This doesn't minimize the reality of the fear you felt. It was real, it was valid, and it served a purpose, reminding you what matters most in life. But recognizing its temporary nature means you don't have to become lost in it or defined by it. Buddha taught about anicca, the fundamental truth of impermanence. He understood that our suffering often comes not from the emotions themselves, but from our resistance to them or our belief that they will last forever. When we accept that all emotional states are temporary visitors, we can experience them fully without being consumed by them. Think of your consciousness as a vast sky. Emotions are like weather patterns, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm. You wouldn't identify yourself as a thunderstorm just because one passes through your area. In the same way, you are not your emotions. You are the sky itself, spacious, enduring, and capable of holding any weather that comes. Daily practice. When strong emotions arise, remind yourself, this is a cloud passing through my sky. I can feel it fully without becoming it. Take 3 conscious breaths, acknowledging the emotion without resistance, but also without attachment. Say quietly, this too shall pass. Create a mental image of yourself as the sky, vast, peaceful, unchanging, while emotions move through like weather. Some clouds are light and wispy, some are dark and heavy, but none of them change the essential nature of the sky itself. Remember, allowing emotions to pass doesn't mean suppressing them or pretending they don't matter. It means experiencing them fully while maintaining perspective about their temporary nature. When you understand this truth deeply, you become unshakable, not because you never feel difficult emotions, but because you know they cannot define you or destroy you. But what if someone tries to convince you that you are fragile, that you can be broken? What happens when others attempt to wound you with their words or actions? Let's discover your true invincibility in the sixth whisper. The unbreakable heart. Picture yourself walking into the conference room for what you thought was a routine team meeting, only to discover that the promotion you've been working toward for 2 years has been given to someone else. Not just anyone else, your closest colleague, someone you mentored, someone you trusted with your ideas and strategies. Someone who apparently took those ideas directly to management and presented them as their own. As you sit there listening to the announcement, watching them accept congratulations for concepts you developed, you feel something crack inside your chest. It's not just disappointment, it's the searing pain of betrayal, mixed with the humiliation of being played for a fool. Everyone in the room knows those were your ideas. Some avoid eye contact. Others offer sympathetic glances that somehow make it worse. After the meeting, you find yourself standing in the hallway, legs shaky, wondering how you could have been so naive. How could you have trusted someone so completely? How could you have missed the signs that they were positioning themselves to take credit for your work? The shame burns as hot as the anger. You feel exposed, vulnerable, like everyone can see your stupidity written across your face. Over the following days, the pain settles into a constant ache. You replay every conversation, every shared coffee break, every moment you thought you were building a genuine professional relationship. The betrayal feels like it's rewritten your entire understanding of yourself. I'm clearly a terrible judge of character, you tell yourself. I'm too trusting, too naive. I'll never let anyone get close again. The hurt goes deeper than just losing the promotion. It feels like they've stolen something fundamental about who you are, your ability to trust, your belief in fairness, your sense that good work gets rewarded. You feel diminished, smaller somehow, as if their actions have actually changed your essential worth. But then, in a quiet moment 3 weeks later, something shifts. You're sitting in your car before work, dreading another day of awkward interactions, when a memory surfaces. You remember your grandmother's hands, weathered from decades of hard work, gently tending her garden after a storm had destroyed most of her flowers. The storm can break the branches, she had said, but it cannot touch the roots. In that moment, Buddha's timeless wisdom whispers through your grandmother's words. Beloved child, they can take your ideas, your opportunities, even your trust. But they cannot touch the essence of who you are. Your worth was not given by them, so it cannot be taken by them. You begin to realize that while the betrayal was real and the pain was valid, your core self, your creativity, your integrity, your capacity for excellence remains completely intact. They took credit for your ideas, but they cannot take your ability to generate new ones. They may have damaged your trust in them, but they cannot destroy your capacity to form meaningful relationships with others who are worthy of that trust. The promotion that seemed so crucial to your identity was external validation. Losing it hurts, but it doesn't diminish the skills, knowledge, and character that made you qualified for it in the first place. Those qualities live within you, unassailable and permanent, regardless of what others do or don't do. Buddha taught about our Buddha nature, the indestructible essence within each being that cannot be harmed by external circumstances. He understood that we suffer most not from what others do to us, but from believing that their actions can fundamentally damage who we are. When we recognize that our true self exists beyond the reach of others' choices, we become emotionally invincible. This doesn't mean becoming cold or closed off. It means understanding the difference between being hurt and being harmed. Hurt is temporary emotional pain, valid and natural when we experience betrayal or loss. Harm would be actual damage to your essential self, which is impossible unless you allow it. You start to see the situation differently. Your colleague's betrayal says everything about their character and nothing about your worth. Their success built on your ideas is ultimately hollow because they know the truth, and truth has a way of surfacing. Meanwhile, your integrity remains intact, your creativity undiminished, your capacity for excellence unchanged. Daily practice. When you feel wounded by others' actions, place your hand on your heart and remind yourself, they can affect my circumstances, but they cannot touch my essence. Ask yourself, what about me remains unchanged despite what they've done? Focus on the qualities within you that are yours alone, your values, your talents, your capacity for growth and love. Create a mental sanctuary, a place in your consciousness that others cannot enter or damage. When you feel attacked or betrayed, retreat to this inner space and remember, you are not what happens to you. You are how you choose to respond to what happens to you. Remember, true invincibility isn't about never feeling pain or never being disappointed by others. It's about knowing that your essential self, the part of you that dreams, creates, loves, and grows, cannot be touched by anyone's actions but your own. When you understand this deeply, you become unshakable not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can fundamentally harm you. But how do we live with grace when life doesn't unfold as we planned? When our dreams don't manifest as expected? Let's explore the profound peace that comes with acceptance in the seventh whisper. The river's teaching. Picture yourself standing in the kitchen of the home you've lived in for 15 years, staring at the foreclosure notice that arrived in today's mail. The company you worked for faithfully for 2 decades just went under, taking your pension and severance with it. The job market for someone your age feels impossible. The savings you thought would last are dwindling faster than you ever imagined possible. This wasn't supposed to happen. You followed all the rules, worked hard, saved money, stayed loyal to your employer, planned carefully for the future. You were supposed to be secure by now, maybe even thinking about early retirement. Instead, you're facing the possibility of losing everything you've built, starting over at a stage of life when starting over feels terrifying. You sink into the chair where you've had morning coffee for so many years, and the weight of it all crashes down. "This isn't fair," you whisper to the empty house. "I did everything right. How can this be happening?" The anger burns alongside the fear, anger at your former employer, at the economy, at a system that promised security in exchange for loyalty, and then broke that promise. The next few weeks feel like you're swimming upstream against a river that keeps getting stronger. Every job application meets with polite rejections or deafening silence. The house feels like it's slipping away no matter how hard you fight to hold on to it. Friends offer sympathy but can't offer solutions. You feel like you're drowning while everyone around you stands safely on the shore. One morning, exhausted from another sleepless night of worry, you find yourself walking by the river that runs through your town. You've passed this spot thousands of times but never really noticed it. Today, something makes you stop and watch the water flow around a large boulder in its path. The river doesn't fight the rock, doesn't try to move it, doesn't exhaust itself raging against the obstacle. It simply flows around it, finding a new path while remaining essentially unchanged. You sit on the bank, watching this simple dance between water and stone, and something inside you begins to shift. The boulder isn't the enemy of the river, it's just part of the landscape the river has learned to navigate. The water doesn't lose its essence by changing course, it remains completely itself while adapting to what it cannot change. In that moment of watching the river's graceful acceptance, Buddha's timeless wisdom flows through your understanding. Beloved child, you have been fighting the current instead of learning to flow with it. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the wisdom to know which battles can be won and which battles only waste your precious energy. You begin to realize that your resistance to this catastrophic change has been doubling your suffering. The job loss, the financial crisis, the uncertainty, these are painful enough on their own. But your fight against the reality of them, your insistence that this shouldn't be happening, has been like swimming against a flood. It's exhausting and ultimately futile. Buddha taught about letting go of attachments to outcomes, the profound peace that comes when we stop demanding that life unfold according to our plans. He understood that our suffering often comes not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to what happens to us. When we accept what is, we free up enormous energy to deal skillfully with our circumstances. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means making peace with reality so you can respond to it clearly rather than react from a place of denial and rage. The river accepts the boulder but finds a way forward. You can accept this financial crisis while still taking action to rebuild and recover. Over the following days, something remarkable happens. When you stop fighting the reality of your situation, you start seeing possibilities you missed while you were busy being angry. A neighbor mentions a consulting opportunity. A former colleague reaches out about contract work. You realize you could downsize to a smaller place and actually feel relieved rather than defeated. Daily practice. When you catch yourself fighting reality with thoughts like, "This shouldn't be happening," or "This isn't fair," pause and take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what am I resisting that I need to accept? How can I flow around this obstacle rather than exhaust myself fighting it? Visualize yourself as the river, flexible, persistent, always finding a way forward without losing your essential nature. Remember, acceptance is not agreement with what happened, and it's not resignation to defeat. It's the wisdom to work with reality rather than against it. The river teaches us that obstacles don't stop the flow of life. They simply create new channels for that flow to express itself. When you master this truth, you discover that life's disruptions often redirect you toward destinations more beautiful than anything you originally planned. But how do we maintain this flowing acceptance when we desperately want to hold on to the people we love? When letting go feels like losing everything that matters? Let's explore the profound freedom that comes with loving release in the 8th whisper. The art of loving release. Picture yourself standing in your child's empty bedroom, boxes packed and loaded into the moving truck outside. Your youngest is finally moving out, not just to college this time, but to start their own life in another state. The room that was once filled with laughter, late-night conversations, and the comforting sounds of them being home now echoes with a silence that feels deafening. You run your hand along the dresser where you used to leave encouraging notes before big exams. You remember the countless times you stood in this doorway checking on them while they slept, feeling that fierce protective love that made you want to wrap them in bubble wrap and keep them safe forever. Now they're ready to face the world without you, and every fiber of your being wants to hold on just a little longer. The rational part of your mind knows this is exactly what you raised them for: independence, confidence, the ability to build their own life. You're proud of the capable, caring adult they've become. But your heart feels like it's being stretched across impossible distances. How do you love someone completely while letting them go completely? Over the past months, you've caught yourself trying to maintain control in small ways, asking too many questions about their plans, offering unsolicited advice about everything from finances to friendships. finding reasons they should visit more often or reconsider moving so far away. Each attempt to hold on has created a little tension, a small step backward in your relationship rather than forward. Last night, during what might have been your final heart-to-heart in their childhood room, they said something that stopped you cold. I know you love me, but sometimes it feels like you love me more when I need you than when I'm strong on my own. The words weren't meant to hurt, but they revealed a painful truth you hadn't wanted to see. You realize you've been confusing love with attachment. Your desire to feel needed, to remain central to their life, has been masquerading as care but actually creating distance. True love wants what's best for the beloved, even when what's best means they need you less, not more. Standing in this empty room, Buddha's gentle wisdom whispers through your maternal heart. Beloved child, love is not possession, it is appreciation. The flower you pick to keep close will wither in your hands. The flower you tend and then admire from a distance will bloom in its own season and bring joy to many gardens. You begin to understand that loving release isn't about caring less. It's about caring so much that you're willing to want their happiness, even when it takes them away from you. It's loving them enough to trust that the values, strength, and wisdom you've given them will guide them well, even when you're not there to guide them yourself. This principle extends far beyond parenting. You think about your marriage, your friendships, your career. How many relationships have you strained by holding too tightly? How many opportunities have you missed because you couldn't let go of what was to embrace, what could be? Buddha taught about non-attachment, the ability to love fully without clinging to outcomes. He understood that attachment creates suffering because it tries to freeze the natural flow of life. When we grasp too tightly to people, experiences, or circumstances, we create tension and resistance that ultimately pushes away what we're trying to hold on to. Loving release means wanting the best for someone even when the best path leads them away from you. It means supporting their dreams even when those dreams don't include you in the way you'd prefer. It means celebrating their independence as a reflection of your success in loving them, not as evidence that you're no longer needed. You start to see that your child's readiness to leave isn't rejection, it's graduation. All those years of love, guidance, and support have created someone strong enough to build their own life. Your success as a parent is measured not by how much they need you, but by how well they can thrive without you. Daily practice. When you feel the urge to control or cling to someone you love, pause and ask, am I acting from love or from attachment? What would loving release look like in this moment? Practice saying silently, I love you enough to want what's best for you, even when what's best challenges my own preferences. Visualize your love as sunlight rather than chains, warm, nurturing and life-giving but never restricting. Sunlight doesn't demand that flowers face only toward it. It simply shines, allowing each bloom to turn toward whatever light serves its growth best. Remember, when you release with love, you don't lose connection, you transform it. The relationship becomes stronger because it's based on choice rather than need, on mutual growth rather than mutual dependence. True love trusts enough to let go, knowing that what belongs in your life will remain, and what needs to grow elsewhere will flourish in the freedom you've given it. But as you practice this art of loving release with others, who is practicing it with you? Who is tending to your needs while you tend to everyone else's? Let's explore the sacred duty of caring for yourself in the ninth whisper. Tending the sacred garden. Picture yourself at 11 p.m., finally sitting down for the first time all day, staring at a dinner of leftover pizza eaten, standing over the kitchen sink. Your elderly mother called 3 times with various needs. Your partner needed help with a work crisis. Your friend is going through a divorce and needed someone to talk to for 2 hours. Tomorrow you have that presentation at work you haven't had time to prepare for because everyone else's emergencies became your priorities. When did you last read a book for pleasure? When did you last take a bath without rushing? When did you last say no to someone's request without feeling guilty? You can't remember, and that realization hits you with a wave of exhaustion that goes deeper than physical tiredness. Your soul tired, running on empty, giving from a well that's been dry for months. You tell yourself, this is temporary. Once your mother feels better, once your friend gets through the divorce, once the busy season at work ends, then you'll take care of yourself. But deep down, you know there will always be another crisis, another person who needs you, another reason to put yourself last. Self-care feels selfish when everyone around you is struggling. Last week, you snapped at a cashier for no reason. Yesterday, you forgot your best friend's birthday. This morning, you caught yourself crying in the car and couldn't even remember what triggered it. The person you used to be, patient, kind, energetic, feels like a stranger. You're giving everyone the worst version of yourself because you've given the best parts away to everyone else. Your sister calls while you're mechanically eating the cold pizza. You sound exhausted, she says. When's the last time you did something just for you? The question hangs in the air because you literally cannot remember the answer. I don't have time for that luxury, you hear yourself saying, the words bitter in your mouth. After you hang up, you sit in the quiet kitchen and really look at your reflection in the dark window. The person staring back looks depleted, hollow, like a plant that's been giving all its nutrients to others while its own roots starve. You realize that in trying to be everything to everyone, you've become nothing to yourself. In that moment of stark recognition, Buddha's compassionate wisdom speaks directly to your weary heart. Beloved child, you cannot pour from an empty cup. In depleting yourself for others, you rob them of the gift of your wholeness. Self-care is not selfish, it is sacred. How can you tend other gardens if you let your own soil become barren? You begin to understand that your exhaustion isn't just hurting you, it's actually limiting how much you can truly help the people you love. When you're running on empty, you give people your stress, your irritation, your depletion. When you're replenished, you give them your patience, your wisdom, your genuine presence. Buddha taught about right livelihood, living in a way that sustains rather than depletes your essential self. He understood that sustainable service to others must include service to yourself. You cannot be a source of strength for others if you never replenish your own strength. You cannot offer others peace if you never create peace in your own life. Self-care isn't bubble baths and spa days, though those can be part of it. It's making the hard choices that protect your energy and well-being. It's saying no to good requests so you can say yes to essential ones. It's recognizing that your needs matter not just for your sake, but for the sake of everyone who depends on you being your best self. You start small. You set boundaries around your time. You ask others to share the caregiving responsibilities instead of shouldering them all yourself. You schedule time for yourself the same way you schedule time for everyone else, as non-negotiable appointments with someone important. The guilt comes, as you knew it would. But you push through it by remembering that you're not being selfish, you're being strategic. You're investing in your ability to be present, patient, and loving for the long term rather than burning out in the short term. Daily practice. Each morning, ask yourself, what does my soul need today to stay replenished? It might be 10 minutes of silence, a walk outside, a phone call with a friend who fills rather than drains you. Schedule it like you would any other important appointment. Create a daily practice of checking in with yourself the way you check in with others. How am I feeling? What do I need? What would nourish me right now? Treat these questions with the same care and attention you give to others' needs. Remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's stewardship. You are the caretaker of the energy, love, and wisdom that you offer to the world. If you don't tend to that source carefully, it will run dry, and then you'll have nothing authentic to give anyone. When you take care of yourself, you're actually taking care of everyone who benefits from your presence in their lives. But even as you learn to tend your own garden, how do you handle the days when everything feels overwhelming? When gratitude seems impossible because nothing feels right? Let's discover how the heart learns to say thank you even in the darkness in our final whisper. The heart's thank you. Picture yourself sitting in the hospital waiting room at 3 a.m., still wearing yesterday's clothes, watching the second hand tick around the clock for what feels like the 1000th time. Your spouse is in surgery, emergency surgery that turned a routine procedure into something frightening and uncertain. The doctors used words like complications and doing everything we can, and now all you can do is wait and pray and try not to think about all the things you never said. The past year has been relentless. Your father passed away in the spring. You lost your job to company downsizing in the summer. Your teenage child is struggling with depression and refuses most of your attempts to help. Now this. As you sit in the sterile waiting room, you feel like life has become a series of disasters with brief pauses in between. A well-meaning friend texted earlier, "Try to think positive. Count your blessings." The words made you want to throw your phone across the room. Count your blessings? What blessings? Right now, gratitude feels like a luxury you can't afford, a pretty sentiment for people whose lives aren't falling apart. But as the hours stretch on and exhaustion makes everything feel surreal, your mind begins to wander. You think about this morning. Was it really just this morning, when your spouse kissed you goodbye and said they'd see you for dinner? Such an ordinary moment, taken completely for granted. Now you'd give anything to have that simple kiss again, to return to the blessed ordinariness of worrying about what to make for dinner. You remember your father's last good day, when he was lucid and laughing at old stories. You had spent so much energy grieving his decline that you almost missed the gift of that final afternoon of really having him present. And your struggling teenager, just yesterday, they came to you for help with homework, a tiny bridge across the chasm that's been growing between you. Even your job loss, devastating as it was, led to conversations with your family that you'd been too busy to have before. Evenings spent together instead of at the office. Time to be present for your child's struggles instead of always rushing to the next meeting. A nurse approaches with an update. The surgery is going well. Your spouse is stable. They'll be in recovery soon. As relief floods through you, you realize that this moment, this ordinary miracle of everything is going to be okay, is exactly the kind of blessing you've been unable to see. In that moment of profound relief, Buddha's gentle wisdom flows through your gratitude-opened heart. Beloved child, gratitude is not about pretending darkness is light. It is about recognizing that even in the deepest night, stars still shine. Even in the harshest winter, seeds sleep safely underground, waiting for spring. You begin to understand that gratitude isn't toxic positivity or denial of pain. It's the practice of recognizing what remains beautiful, meaningful, and precious even when life is difficult. It's not about being thankful for suffering, but about finding threads of grace woven through even the darkest tapestries. Buddha taught about appreciation practice, the cultivation of awareness for life's gifts, both obvious and hidden. He understood that gratitude is not just a feeling but a practice, a way of training the mind to notice light even in darkness. This doesn't diminish real pain or struggle. It provides perspective and resilience to carry us through difficult times. Sitting in that waiting room, you start to see gratitude differently. You're grateful for the doctors working through the night. Grateful for the medical knowledge that makes this surgery possible. Grateful for the friend who dropped everything to drive you to the hospital. Grateful for the years you've had with your spouse, years that taught you how much this person means to you. Even your grief for your father becomes a form of gratitude. You wouldn't miss him so deeply if you hadn't been blessed to love him so completely. Your worry for your child is gratitude for the privilege of being their parent, even through the difficult times. Daily practice. Each evening, before sleep, identify 3 things from your day for which you're grateful. On difficult days, let them be simple. The morning coffee, a text from a friend, the fact that you made it through. On better days, let them be expansive. Relationships, opportunities, moments of beauty or joy. When life feels overwhelming, ask yourself, what would I miss if it were gone? This question often reveals gifts hiding in plain sight. Health we take for granted. People whose presence has become so familiar we forget to appreciate it. Simple comforts that make life bearable. Remember, gratitude is not about forcing positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about developing the ability to see both the suffering and the gifts, both the loss and what remains, both the darkness and the stars that shine within it. When you cultivate this practice consistently, you develop what Buddha called the grateful heart, a way of being that can find meaning and beauty, even in life's most challenging chapters. As you master this final whisper, you complete the circle of these 10 teachings. You've learned to transform wounds into wisdom, to claim sovereignty over your emotional kingdom, to balance excellence with grace, to see every person as a teacher, to let emotions pass like clouds, to become unbreakable at your core, to flow like water around obstacles, to love by letting go, to tend your own sacred garden, and to find gratitude even in darkness. These whispers from Buddha's heart now live in your heart. May you carry them with you always, and may they bring you the peace that surpasses all understanding. Take a deep breath with me, a breath of completion. We have traveled a long journey together, from words that wound to hearts that know gratitude. From a place of feeling weary and hurt, to understanding that you are the vast sky that holds all emotions but is never defined by them. 10 whispers from Buddha's heart have now become part of you. They live in your breath, in the way you see the world, in the wisdom you'll carry as you step out of this quiet space. You've learned that others' judgments only reflect their inner world, not your worth. You've discovered that the kingdom of emotions belongs to you, and only you hold the keys. You've understood that you can maintain high standards for yourself, while still extending compassion to those struggling in different seasons of life. You've seen that every person you meet carries a lesson, that emotions are just temporary clouds across the sky of consciousness, and that your true essence cannot be harmed by external circumstances. You've learned to flow like a river around obstacles, to love by letting go, to care for yourself as a sacred duty, and to find gratitude even in the darkest moments. These wisdoms aren't things you need to remember. They've become part of how you exist in this world. As you return to daily life, trust that these whispers will surface exactly when you need them most. If today's journey has touched your heart, I invite you to share it with others who are also seeking rest for their weary souls. Leave a comment about which whisper resonated most deeply within you. Subscribe to Where Hearts Rest so we can continue this healing journey together. Each time you return, you'll find more stories, more wisdom, more quiet moments for your soul to rest. Because this isn't just a podcast, this is a community of hearts finding their way home to themselves. And that home is always here, in the gentle whispers of unconditional love. As you step into the world today, carry with you the compassion we've cultivated together. Remember that you are a beloved child of the universe, deserving of all the goodness life has to offer. From my heart to yours, from this soul to that soul, may you find peace, may you find joy, may you always know there's a place in this world where your heart can rest. Until we meet again, dear friend.